Hello there, welcome back to my channel. My name is SKYMAN and your Star Wars quote for today. If they find us, they will crush us, grind us into tiny pieces and blast us into oblivion. And today we're going to be reacting to episode 4 from season 3, the final season of Bad Batch. I kind of really loved last week's episode. There's just something so tantalizing about seeing Sidious just doing Sith things. And one thing that's always a good sign for me, and knows if it was a really good episode, is during that week for waiting for the next episode, if I rewatched Bad Batch, which is what I did, I rewatched that episode because I loved it so much. It still hits me the same, just seeing Palpatine just turn up with his thin Imperial guards. But turn up and it's just very dark and ominous, and he's just simply walking down with all the troops there. The music's perfect, the ambience is perfect. It was one of those things on screen which just translates really well, and knowing what he's up to, and he's doing sinister Sith stuff, which is, even when he says it's an abomination for, it's even the likes of other Imperials, and that's why Sidious loves it. That's what I really liked. I thought that was a really good episode. And plus, Ian McDermott voicing directly now all the time Sidious, his character is just perfect. I mean, it just adds this very creepy element to it as well, which I love so much. I know the comments for this are very lively and the discussion's a bit of a hot topic, but I stand very firm for what I say about where I think this is going. Bad Batch to me is a series which can very much stand on its own 2 feet. It's its own entity. Like, it's got interesting characters, and the story is great, and visually it's really great. It could do its own thing very easily. I also love that it's taken the wider galactic scope into consideration to make it integral with their story, which is very good as well. But when it comes to Sidious and this project, I mean, the thing that only saddens me is that when you think about The Rise of Skywalker and how it was made, they did not have Bad Batch in mind when he thought that Bad Batch or the Clone Wars creators would create something to fill in the gaps of something which wasn't planned to be in that movie. Some of you would say, yeah, the Clone Wars was kind of that for rectifying the prequels, but for me, the prequels are perfect. And for growing up with the prequels, it's not rectifying anything, it's adding, it's developing. This, however, it's slightly different. The way I perceive it is that it's not rectifying, it's not adding to it, it's trying to repair something, and I think there's a bit of a difference there. And I mean, we all have a different ideas and stuff of Star Wars. That's how I feel for me, because I love the prequels so much. And you might love The Rise of Skywalker and all the sequels, and that's great also. And this would then be perfect to have the whole Snoke thing, or whatever Sidious is up to, and where it leads on to that. But for me, I feel like this point for Sidious creating something, knowing that it's going to go through all of this effort to create something, to then know how abysmally terribly all those creations end up in the sequels, like with Snoke, and he's got Tube of Snokes. And Snoke to me should always have been a dark, ancient Force user who's not intertwined with the light side or the dark side, and he's not caught up in the Sith, and that obviously gives more meaning for Anakin destroying the Sith. But instead, he's just this ancient being with different powers, and it could be really creepy. It could have been stood on his own 2 feet and been an iconic as Palpatine as well. It could have been, and Andy Serkis was completely wasted. I mean, see what I mean? There's so many things that you shouldn't have to keep thinking about. These things that should have been in the movie. These creators should have been good enough to create these own amazing things, just like George Lucas did with the rest of Star Wars. I mean, if you can't do it, then just think about, should you be doing it, sort of thing. All roads, if it's leading to Exegol, then yeah, I get why they're doing it. It could be cool if we get to see some interesting things and the usage perhaps of Snoke in between that time. But if that is that project, or Palpatine for cloning himself or something, it's creepy. It is a very interesting story, but you just can't help but one day, you know what happens at the end. It's not like with young Anakin Skywalker, we know he turns into Darth Vader by the end of the prequels, but that journey along the way stands on its own feet. Yeah, I think that's just a minor thing for me anyway. The main thing was the fact we got to see Sidious and got to see him, or get to see him do these Sith things which are creepy and ominous, and that's what I really loved in last week's episode. Tonally, it was perfect. Now, the way they left it, of course, like with Hunter and Wrecker saying, yeah, it's a large space to try and find them. And I mean, as much as I would love for them to meet up and reunite in this episode, is it going to happen? Most probably not. But there's still that tiny glimmer of hope, which I feel that it might happen. And if they do it, I mean, it would just be, yeah, so perfect. Just to see, like, Crosshairs and Omega and Wrecker and Hunter and their ships both land down and they sort of walk out, or they're sort of there waiting, Hunter and Wrecker, and then Omega and Crosshairs walk down together. Yeah, I think that will hit me pretty deep, because Crosshairs has been through a lot. So is Omega as well. But the reunion's long overdue, but like, I don't want to get too much into that because that's probably most likely not going to happen in this episode. But yeah, I don't have a clue what's going to happen in this episode. I really hope it's going to be a reunion, but you never know. Anyway, let's watch and enjoy. One day I'll get that right.
I can see that.
I see. So no contacting Hunter then for this episode. I love seeing them together. They work so well. It's looking like a head-on collision though. We're coming in too hard. And that was the end of Omega and Crosshairs. So I think that sort of further cements that we're not having a reunion in this episode. No comms. Out in the wilderness. I mean, visually, it looks so good now. Like, the creators of this are really up their game again.
That is most surprising.
Is it? I never understood your attempt.
That result is nothing but an aberration.
These Kaminoans always have an answer for everything.
Once Omega's brought back, the test's validity will be confirmed. Your future, however, is less certain.
To be honest, I love the Empire Science Corps. It's so calm and calculating, and because of the calmness, it makes it a bit more scary. It's like a different approach. I mean, take the First Order, who are just shouting non-stop, and it's just like, okay, calm down now. But this is very, very creepy in a way. But I love that conversation, that every part of that conversation is everything we've talked about and what you're thinking as well, and it's there. Like, yeah, it's done nicely.
They didn't. You're the one who wanted to bring the Hound.
See what I mean? Crosshairs and his dry humour. It's good. That's someone's most beloved bags. Cool designs. I like them.
Slip past all those troopers undetected.
I can take out at least half before they know what's happening.
Or
I quite like Crosshairs
watch and learn.
version.
Sounds like a you problem. Don't come back without the credits.
It's a good phrase.
Storming the spaceport would be easier than finding 30,000 credits.
Take those credits.
That's what I love about the animated in comparison with live action. Like things like the Trandoshans, they look like Trandoshans. They've got their long arms, they're tall, they've got their claw feet.
Take long.
As opposed to in the live action where they have shoes, 5 fingers, and they're short, you know. And surely they could be animated or something done to them in the live action.
Ran out of ink.
I feel like that would be me as an Imperial officer.
Leaving so soon?
Oh dear. Oh, what's he gonna do?
I've seen you or your dad around before.
We're just passing.
That's nice. Dad. Crosshairs.
I'll take those 20,000 credits.
Gambling's illegal in these parts. Try and stay out of trouble.
Well, he seems very fair and reasonable, Imperial officer. It's just like this thing where I feel like Hunter and Wrecker are going to be flying over or something, and I don't know.
10,000 credits.
I'm getting tired of this.
Okay.
You will pay for what you did to Obi-Wan.
Snatched the creature and headed for the
Of
cargo.
course he
dolls.
did. It's feeling a bit Jurassic Parky. Definitely.
But my skills are being wasted.
Noted.
Yeah. Whoa.
License means a hefty fine.
Let's try things your way.
Yes. That's what we want. Oh, it's a lost world. It's a Phantom Menace one. I'm trying to spot all of the animals which food in Star Wars. What's the other one from Clone Wars where the slavers come to Ahsoka's homeworld? Now that is good. I love just hearing the Bad Batch scene there. However, you're on the ship now and you could potentially have communications again, so you never know.
And notify all our operatives.
Hemlock's becoming a bit iconic for me. He's a good villain. I thought that was the end.
Hunter and Wrecker to meet us there.
So it might be this episode.
Omega.
Surely not. Are they doing this? Is that their ship?
Now there's a sight!
Wrecker!
I wasn't even sure your message was real.
Pull yourself together, SKYMAN.
We missed it. We never stopped searching.
Done it again. Seriously, I just don't know how it does it. What's happened to me? Oh dear. I mean, I know I said that I really wanted a reunion in this episode, but I had no idea that was going to happen. Yeah, it was just so well done. And once again, I thought I was just going to feel like inside. I thought, well, if they meet up, which probably wouldn't be this episode, it'd be a future episode, I'll probably just feel so ecstatic. Yeah, that just completely turned it over on its head, and that became a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be. See that sort of vindication in his face, and Hunter and Wrecker sort of in their look, it's like they can't believe what they're seeing. and they don't know what to believe as well. That was so nicely done. The music, I think it must be the music. Something hits me so differently in those scenes, and it was very calm, and it was just done right and perfect. The sad thing is that Tech wasn't there to witness that as well, because that would have been really nice. But then it's gonna develop really nicely throughout the series now. But the fact that this has happened now only gets me even more excited, knowing that it's gonna build on like the stories like kicking in properly, and you're gonna have those dynamics now with Crosshair integrating himself again within the Bad Batch, and see those dynamics bounce off one another, and then Crosshair's dry wit and humour, and obviously they're gonna joke around and, you know, keep checking on Crosshairs that it's actually him. I think that's going to be really nice. My only concern is that Crosshairs is going to do like a sacrifice thing at the end, which I really hope he doesn't. I'm still sort of holding on that Tech's going to come back somehow and he actually didn't die, and there's going to be all of them together. That would be really nice, but I just have this feeling that it's not going to end as happy as we want it to. That's just a small bad feeling that I have. Hemlock is quite a captivating villain, and the more we see of him, I was a bit I just thought it was standard villain to begin with, but then, and maybe somewhat different, but this season so far has really sort of cemented that I really like this guy. And I think once you have the Sidious seal of approval, then you know that he's a good, worthy villain and opponent to have. And just that calm, collective nature that he's got. He's not losing his temper. He's just doing things, and he gets them sort of done. And that's, what I really like about the antagonist this time around. Even though, like I said at the start, I've still got my reservations about the whole cloning thing and, what Sidious is up to. The whole main focus still for me is Bad Batch as a whole. Sure, they're looking for Omega and things, but it is the whole collective company of Bad Batch, which I love and I'm here for as well. I mean, it's not a massive thing. I really hope that, like I said, it is something really interesting for the Sidious project, or Project Sidious. And Dave Filoni has definitely got that within him to create the power, to make something interesting. The one thing which I find special with Bad Batch is that this is the last thing that George Lucas had an input in creating. This is still from George Lucas's mind, and that's what's making this special, because it's kind of feeling like a bit of a send-off now. And once Bad Batch is finished, that sort of feels like that's the last of George Lucas's ideas in Star Wars. I mean, you really think about that and let that simmer. It's mad, really. But now we've got to wait another week for another episode. In between then, I'm going to do another video which is different to what I've normally done on this channel. It's sitting right there, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, until next week, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. Thanks for watching, take care of yourself, and remember, the Force will be with you always.